just by the skin of our teeth, we made it. Oh my golly.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Welcome to the Backpack Show, where everything just works. So glad to have everybody here. This is our first show back at the start of the year, even though we did one on the 1st. So I feel like we, skipped all those people that took the day off.
Well, some people I think were off right up until probably this very minute, and some even after.
There are some businesses, though, that you can't quite take the day off. I mean, there's stuff that still has to go on, whether or not the holiday or not. My Aunt Jane, still to this day, stables horses, although a lot fewer than she did. Those horses don't get a day off. So I imagine
horses don't get a day off.
It's annoying. You got to feed them. You got to clean out their poops. Like it's a job.
That's so every day is a day off.
Well,
somebody else feeds them, and
the horse has a day off. The humans don't.
Right.
So I got to imagine a zoo is just a little harder than one stable with a few stupid horses.
You can't just lock it up and expect everything to be fine for a couple of weeks.
Why in the world did you say we should interview someone at a zoo?
So I was thinking we've talked to a lot of people who had to change everything to get by in a pandemic. And I was thinking there's probably some kinds of businesses that were like in a better place to begin with. Like definitely if you serve the public, you've got some challenges. But as far as what zoos do, they already have to prevent like species to species illnesses and stuff. So I'm thinking that they take a lot of precautions that they now are recommending for COVID prevention. So I was thinking, I bet zoos could teach us something.
About how did the earth did you find a zoo person, and who are we talking to today?
Well, it's funny. I live in Nashville, and we have an amazing zoo, and I was a member there for a couple of years right after we moved down, and the kids were little and they were super into it and stuff, and it has award-winning bathrooms. I was like, you need to talk to someone from the Nashville Zoo. So I got in touch, and Jim Bartoo, who is in charge of marketing and PR over there, agreed to come and talk with us. But he is like a zoo marketing guy since forever. Wow. So we're like 20 years. So we have to talk to him about that too.
We have to ask about, changes and trends in zoo marketing, and also award-winning bathrooms.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
You're going to want to go try them. Yes. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
Like real awards.
Hey, P Short. Look at everybody here to see this. There's my dad. I assume my mom's hanging out handy.
I love zoos.
Listen, Stoneham, Massachusetts, the Stone Zoo is not the best example of a zoo to love. But I had York Zoo in York, Maine. And then there was a zoo when I used to go visit my grandfather in North Amity, Maine. And really, honestly, the way this zoo worked, as far as I could tell, is they just opened the fence out back, and like whatever came in, and then they'd shut the fence. That'd be the zoo, because there's a whole bunch of black bears, which are right also on the other side of the fence. And a whole bunch of deer, which are right on the other side of the fence. These ones are ours. They're the zoo. You know what I mean? So there's a distance between that and like the San Diego Zoo.
Well, I grew up on Cape Cod. We didn't have a zoo there. And then I lived in Stoneham for a while, and we had the Stone Zoo, and they had that polar bear who was like very sad and lonely. Major. Do you remember him?
Polar bear.
Sad polar bear. But they did a nice holiday light display. So that was my like.
Always had really nice lights.
Yeah.
So that's what I asked Jim about is, zoos. What the heck? Like there's such a spectrum to talk about, because there's new ways. Franklin Zoo, by the way, Massachusetts is award-winning. In Boston, we have gorillas, and that's an award-winning setup, like for how they did what they did. But
we need to talk about these bathrooms.
We got to talk about these bathrooms. So let's get Jim on, because we need to know what makes a bathroom award-winning, please, sir.
It's got animals in it.
Oh
no!
In the bathroom.
Yeah, in the bathrooms. Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, we started with, we opened up a new entry village a few years ago. And in the process, our zoo president said, we're going to put snakes in the bathroom, in the men's bathroom. And at the time, I thought, that's just insane, right? So he built this beautiful snake exhibit right above the urinals in the men's room. And it opened up, and it was a hit. It was a spectacular hit. Right. And so I would go out into the public, and I would take pictures of these urinals with the snake exhibit above it. And I'd bring them up and do these speeches at lunch and everything. And the rationale that I would give people is, look, when and a lot of women don't know this, when men go to the bathroom and they use the bathroom at the urinals, it's straight ahead. You don't talk to anybody. You don't look left or right. It's straight ahead. Do your business. Don't talk. Don't talk to me. No. Now that the snake exhibit is up above these urinals, they're talking to each other. They're having great conversations. So, at the zoo here, we're doing more than just showing animals and educating people about animals. We are breaking down social barriers. We are creating a whole new environment of people to be able to discuss with one another.
I'm imagining you coming out of the bathroom with your phone, and people are like, "What are you taking pictures over there?"
Hey, check all this out! And the guy's like, "Whoa, hey, come on!"
You're like, "I got my OnlyFans to think about."
But that wasn't how we won the bathroom exhibit award. We won because we built this bear exhibit that's really kind of this whole area. It's called Expedition Peru, Trek of the Andean Bear. When you go into this area, you feel like you are in a Peruvian village. It's beautiful. And in the women's bathroom in there's a floor to ceiling display that has cotton top tamarins in it, which is like a tiny little monkey with white hair, kind of looks like Einstein. So it's a bunch of these little monkeys jumping around in this exhibit, and that's just in the women's room. Only the women can go in and see that. And so that's what actually got us this Best Exhibit in the Country award. And then since then, men have been complaining that the women get a better exhibit than they do. And of course, that's just whining at that point. I don't know how to deal with that. I'm just like, all right, come on, man. You got snakes. What's the problem?
Phil said no danger noodles in the bathrooms for women.
I know my mom is scared to death of snakes. I was thinking she'll be nowhere near that bathroom, but she gets little monkeys.
Where would Indiana Jones go to the bathroom in your zoo?
What's that?
Where would Indiana Jones go to the bathroom in your zoo?
Oh, that's right. He hates snakes.
Well, so you can go to a different men's room. It's not the only men's room we have.
It's like I'm going to go to the second tier bathrooms.
Yeah.
Whatever.
There are other bathrooms with no animals in them. So
is there a longer line for the bathrooms that have the animals?
There actually are at the ladies' room at the Andean exhibit, the Andean bear exhibit. Women will invite their husbands in to see and like push people out of the bathroom. So women will sometimes have to wait for the men to get out of their own bathroom.
Time to go co-ed.
I do not do that here. That's what I'm gonna officially say, that don't go into the women's room.
On the record, don't do that.
Right. Okay. Go into the bathroom of your gender choice.
There you go. That's a good way to handle it. Yeah. By the way, when you were starting towards explaining the women's bathroom and you talked about a bear exhibit, I was like, please tell me there's a bear poop in the woods. Just right there.
One of the stalls is specifically for the bear. Yeah.
I bet you've never been interviewed by anybody where we start with the toilets, but that's just the kind of classy business show you're on right now.
Centos. I got interviewed by Centos. They started with the bathrooms. Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
that would make sense. Okay, so beyond monkeys and snakes in the toilets, right by your window, there is a possibility that real flamingos,
right?
It'd be very different if it's penguins. Real flamingos will wander by to visit your plastic one.
Right.
Zoos have stars. Zoos tend to have a star creature that people come to want to see, sometimes by choice and sometimes just the people choose the star.
Right.
You talk a little bit about the celebrity side of your zoo at present, or is there one, or does there have to be one?
We're really a pretty new zoo. We're one of the newest zoos in the country. Got started in about 1992. So we don't have kind of a long-standing star. Clouded leopards tends to be our signature animal here because we have a lot of them. We do a lot of breeding of clouded leopards. But we also have an aardvark that came down out of Cincinnati named Winsel. And he's a internet sensation. People loved him as he was growing up and digging and eating and just doing everything an aardvark does. We also have a couple of different animals that have made stardom on the internet. We have a cassowary chick, which is kind of like an emu on acid. It's got a beautiful blue head with red wattles down underneath, this big cask on top of her head. And she was the first cassowary born here. And so we named her Neo because she's the chosen one. And these birds they're fantastic birds, and they grow really fast, but they're really spastic, right? So when they jump, they just kind of like jump and run, all over the place. So that's kind of what happened with Neo, is that she'd jump into this pool and then her legs would go sideways and she'd dart off. And that was really appealing to people who were watching it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it was. And we were getting millions, mostly from like Singapore. We had people from Indonesia that were contacting us and saying, "Oh, this is great video. Can you send us more?" So it's that kind of stuff that these stars kind of pop up and then they grow up and move on and that kind of stuff. Right now we have a birth watch camera up on our giraffe Nasha. So now it's all about Nasha because everybody's tuning in to see when Nasha is gonna drop.
How long does it take for a giraffe to gestate? I'm so sorry.
I know that's an important question too, but Coach Woodard says there's already so many celebrities in Nashville, the animals would have tough competition.
Right.
All right. The gestation period for giraffes, I think, is where Chris left off.
Where'd you go, Jim? What do you know?
What? I'm sorry. What was the question?
How long is the gestation for a giraffe?
14 months. Yeah. So she's been developing a calf for 14 months. She's due any day. We thought it was going to be Christmas week, but here we are in the new year and she's still going strong. So they did a pelvic exam. The vet did a pelvic exam on a giraffe, and the probably 2 weeks before Christmas, she did this exam, whereas previously, like a month prior, she'd do the pelvic and would go, I don't know, probably this far in before getting to the baby. This time she got about that far and felt the head right there and the hooves right there. Because when a baby calf is ready to come out, they kind of dive out, right? They kind of come out hoof first and then the heads, and then they kind of roll as they drop out of the mother. So everybody says when a giraffe is born, the first thing that happens is it falls 6 feet. And it's kind of a misnomer because they're kind of hanging down halfway out before they finally come all the way out, but then they roll onto their backs. It's really amazing to watch the whole thing take place because that drop and that roll has to do with their being able to breathe on their own and get up and start walking and all of that stuff. And they're usually up and walking within about an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. Wants to know if you have pictures of the animals. I mean, why would you need them? You got a big window right there. I'm thinking you see them all the time.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, well, we have pictures, plenty of pictures of animals that you can see up on our internet. And if you keep watching that frame pan over, you go over to the next one down. You'll see it's a baby watch site and it has our giraffe on it. Yeah, and then you can click on that, and that takes you to the page where we have the baby watch cameras, and it's thanks to a local news station, WKRN. You got to let them load, so they take a little while to load. But there they are. There's 2 inside cameras where you can see them, and then there's an outside camera in case they're not inside. Because we're in Nashville, so the weather will frequently get above 50 here throughout the winter, and we'll let them outside if it gets above 50 degrees.
Wow,
so that's that giraffe.
Where's the screen so she can binge watch Netflix? 14 months is a long time.
Yeah, I know. But she won't stay inside. She'll go out until she goes into labor, and then they'll bring her into that stall. And that's Nasha you're seeing right there in that upper left camera. And there's 2 stalls for her. So she's in the stall. If you click on that one, you'll see another view of her. So that's the camera that's kind of right above her. What's that?
Pregnant giraffe looks like.
That's what a pregnant giraffe looks like. Yeah, you can kind of see that bump. You can kind of see that bump underneath their belly there. But they hide it really well, and that's part of their physiology. You know, if a lion can tell that a giraffe is pregnant, it's going to be easier prey. Yeah, so they hide that really well.
They'd be like, yeah.
That's tricky.
Yeah, but keepers can tell, and keepers are with these animals every single day, day in and day out, so they can tell the tiniest little changes in these animals, and they can tell when these animals are getting close to delivering. So it's going to be any day now that she goes into labor. So everybody tune in and watch, because the press release I have drafted starts out with X number of people saw this birth. So I need a lot of people to tune in and watch. So it can be an impressive number. I don't want it to be like 37 people saw this giraffe.
Get it going now. This would be good timing. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So I was thinking the whole reason that I wanted to talk to someone from the zoo was because I was thinking that you must have been relatively prepared for a pandemic or an outbreak of any kind, just because of the nature of like zootropic illnesses. Can you talk about that?
Zoonotic diseases, or diseases that transfer from animal to human, has always been a concern of ours from the get-go, and nobody preaches that better than our vet team and our vet tech team, who knows very well about all the diseases and the transfer. So a lot of our keepers already protect themselves when they go in and work with animals, particularly primates, who are susceptible to a lot of human disease. So they wear masks so they don't transmit. Sometimes they wear booties on their feet. They wear gloves when they work with these animals, that kind of stuff. So that was already in place with a lot of the primate team. And then some of the other animals had that in place. We've stepped that up even more once we found out that tigers can contract COVID-19. So our carnivore team started really managing these animals at a distance a little bit more, and wearing masks and wearing protective equipment so they weren't transferring any diseases to the animal. We're not necessarily worried about animals giving us the diseases. All these animals come in and go through a pretty specific quarantine. They're monitored constantly throughout the year by our vet team. They're giving all the shots that they need on an annual basis. Our animals are pretty clean. It's the humans that come in contact with the animals that we're more concerned about.
Boy, it's always, don't they say that with dogs? They're like, the human mouths are filthy. Stay away from them.
Yeah, I know. And the dogs are like, ooh, humans. Ugh.
Yes, exactly. So you've been a zoo marketing guy for decades. So when did you first get into that? Like, when did that become your niche?
And how did you know it? I think you know what I should do is just market zoos. That's what I've been wondering all morning.
I didn't even know it. I didn't even know the job existed until I went to go work for a zoo. I started in TV news. Actually, I worked in TV news for about 3 years, and then I was trying to get a job at an ad agency, and because that was kind of my schooling was advertising. So I was looking for ad agency work and not really finding anything. And so I picked up a part-time job at a zoo, just working in guest services. And I would ring school groups through, and I sold or rented strollers and wheelchairs. I was the boat captain's mate up and down the river in Columbus for a summer. I drove a tram, a train. I did tours on trams. I did all different kinds of stuff that were all kind of like this guest interaction stuff. And in the process, I discovered that they had a marketing department, and the marketing department needed someone that could edit tape on 3/4 inch deck, which at the time was just going out of style for TV, but coming into style for anybody, a nonprofit that was getting some equipment donated to it. And so I had trained for 3 years on editing in TV news, and that's how I initially landed in the marketing department at the Columbus Zoo. That was 1993.
Wow.
So I've been in zoos since 93. I worked in Columbus, worked my way through the marketing department, doing events. I learned about sponsorships. I already knew about advertising. And then I was fortunate enough to land a job here in Nashville. My wife and I kind of live equidistant in either direction. So she's from St. Louis and I'm from Chattanooga. So we had a child. We were up in Columbus, and it was important for us to get back to family. So we targeted Nashville as a great town to live in. And I was just fortunate that they had a marketing and PR director spot open, and I got the job. And I have literally had this degree or this title and I've been in this 2 by 2 square foot space for over 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun.
So that's atypical as well. I mean, on either side, like leadership comes and goes. So some zoo director shows up and says, we need new voices and new marketing. And they look at you and they're like, he's an old guy, and they kick you out. Right. So you're still there. And also you think, oh my God, what else am I going to say about a friggin' porcupine? Right. Like you eventually think, I've got to do something different with my life, no matter what it is. Or I guess the third one is, the itch bites you and you say, I must be pretty good at this. I've had this job for 20 years. I'm going to go on the speaking circuit and talk about how to market zoos to the other 5 zoo marketers. So you stayed the course. How did you do that? And what keeps you still wanting to show up and not pull your hair out?
Well, it's interesting. I always seem to learn something new in the zoo field, and that could be under animal care or animal behaviors or the operation of the zoo or the management of the zoo, and the way people think about how this is going to work, how we're going to get this out to the public, how the public's going to come in and interact with this, how they're going to react to this, how we're going to safely get them as close as we can to this particular animal, and how they're going to feel once they're done with that. What is the message that we're trying to send when we do that? Why are we doing this? Why are we getting this person close to kangaroos? What's the point of doing something like this, and what do we want them to walk away with? So the process of operating a zoo and being in a zoo environment, the education is endless. You can just learn more and more and more. And I don't have to go anywhere to do that. I don't have to be anything more than what I am. Just educating myself about everything that's happening within the zoo is enough to make me enjoy what I'm doing. And because I'm a spokesperson for the zoo, I share as much as I learn with the public, because I find it fascinating. And if I can find a way to tell the story in a fascinating way to other people, well, that just draws people into the zoo's experience even more, which is kind of my job. My job is to get people to go to the zoo, to be interested in the zoo enough to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go when I'm there, when I'm in Nashville next, or I've lived in Nashville all my life and I've never been there. I think I should go check it out. That's my job, is to get people to go and do that.
To just go and try the bathroom. I mean,
yeah, just go to the bathroom and see that, if for nothing else. Right. And then, if they like it enough, become a member. This is a membership's a great deal. If you want to come more than once, get a membership. It makes more sense to do that. And if you like it even more than that, buy a brick, make your name known here. Tell people you've been here a lot. Put a plaque on a bench and become part of our mission to continue what we're doing, to contribute towards conservation, to help save clouded leopards from disappearing, from hellbenders from disappearing from the planet. Pick your animal. We've got a ton of them that we are helping out.
You'd mentioned sponsorship opportunities. I was thinking about that. So at a certain point, like once all the bricks are named or whatever, you've got to come up with something new. So like new exhibit, expand the zoo. What kinds of sponsorship opportunities do you create?
Well, one of the benefits of Nashville is that we are, again, a very new zoo. We got the property we got this property, which is about 6 miles south of downtown Nashville, in 96 and opened in 97 with really not a whole lot here. It's 188 acres and we're developed on about 90 of it. And that 90 acres we've developed over the past 20 years. So we've got a good 90 acres to go before we're done developing. And we're going to grow as quickly as the public will let us grow. Sponsorship opportunities tend to pop up and fade depending on what it is that we're offering. It isn't always just a physical part of the zoo. It may be your name on a beer event that we have out here where you can come out and do beer tasting, or a Halloween event where kids can come out and trick or treat at the zoo, or a light event that you were talking about, where a Christmas event where people can come out and enjoy the lights. And, oh, by the way, this was brought to you by the local electric company. That kind of stuff still exists. And we look for opportunities for companies to be able to put their name and piggyback on the things that we're bringing to the community. Honestly, we couldn't do that stuff if it wasn't for sponsorship. We just couldn't make that happen, not without charging the public an astronomical amount of money to come and see lights.
Sell popcorn while people wait for the giraffe to give birth. I feel like you can sit this far away.
That's right.
Distanced in your bubble. We'll give you some popcorn and you just wait.
I'm thinking more like if they're in the exhibit, if they're inside that pen that they're in there, divide that off into like a grid, and then let people kind of gamble on where the baby's going to drop on that grid, right? raise money and have all the money go to conservation, but the winner gets like a 2-year membership or something like that, or a visit with the baby giraffe. You get an up close visit. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. You could do that. You wouldn't even have to put the grid on the ground. You could just say, all right, we're gonna let people bid on date and time for delivery, and then the winner that gets closest to that gets this, and they could bid on that. It's gambling, so you can't. In the state of Tennessee, that's that you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get something like that done.
Well, more like guessing. Just call it guessing. Right.
It's guessing with money.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of ways.
But I need to get somebody on the inside to tell me. I don't know. She looks like she's not eating today. This might be the day.
Right now, it looks like she's leaning over the wall and looking to see what's happening.
She's socializing, isn't she? She's looking for keepers.
Yeah, she's like, hey, are we going outside today?
Oh, that's fun. That's it. I could do this all day. There goes my day.
Hey, you and a couple thousand people, because whenever the camera goes out or something happens technology-wise, we just get a flood of calls of people saying, I can't see. She's going to have the baby.
Did you ever think that would be the case? Like, the people would be asking about a giraffe giving birth and like demanding to know where it was in the middle of a work day, like wanting to see the cam?
20 years ago, I would have told you no, but no. Since then, I'm like, when the TV station came to us and said we want to do a giraffe camera, I was like, this is going to be great. Who's going to answer the calls? Because I'm going to need some help with that. But fortunately, we've moved into the era where people don't like to talk to one another on a live basis, so they type it into a social media platform, and then we can choose when we want to respond to that.
You could field the tweets, because I was going to say, I mean, that's your experience rearing its head though when they said this will be great, and you thought, how will this hurt?
Yeah,
and, that's 20 some odd years of zoo marketing.
Right. But I also know what kind of coverage you're going to get out of that. I mean, having the world watch a giraffe birth has its risks, right? This delivery may not go well, right. But it also has its rewards in that there's going to be the world watching this process, and I think the reward and has always been much more than the risk.
So zoos have changed a lot, and people who maybe haven't been to a zoo in a while are thinking of their childhood experience with zoos. I told you about that one in Maine. It was literally just a bunch of bears and deer let in, and it wasn't really handled, let's say. Those people I'm sure had, about zero zookeeping skill, but probably knew their way around deer and bear. It's changed a lot, but there's still a lot of protests. There's a lot of anger and all that, and you have to deal with that because you have to deal with that. So, Kerry and I were talking about the Stone Zoo. There was this polar bear out front of the Stone Zoo for 1 million years, and he was the saddest creature on the earth. And it was just,
he was all alone. And
it was not a good look for the zoo.
Yeah,
I'm just talking marketing and human rights at the same time here, animal rights. I have no doubt in my mind that you've done everything in the universe for this, but what's the ongoing experience like, and what is the continuing pressure like? And then how do you respond to that? Because, you're a professional communicator whose job is to make people say good things about the Nashville Zoo. How do you walk that line, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, and I think perception is really the key ingredient there. If people go to a zoo and they see an animal in an environment and that environment doesn't look appealing to them personally, they associate that the animal is therefore not happy, not content in that environment, whatever it is. And they may be right, they may not be right. It doesn't really matter. The perception is the process. So part of it is changing the perception or changing the environment so the perception is changed. And that's taken place quite a bit over the decades that zoos have been in existence. When zoos started, and a lot of them started right after World War II when they were looking for the service folks to come in and do something. A lot of them were built around those times. The philosophy behind caring for an animal was you got to keep it clean, because keeping it clean means keeping it healthy. So
Right.
they would put animals in environments that they knew they could keep clean and sanitize. And that was largely concrete and metal, things that they could scrub down and bleach and put the animal back in again. And over the years, zoos and they were managed by largely city service teams, janitorial teams that knew how to scoop poop and divvy out hay and do the things that an animal needs, what they thought an animal needs to be able to thrive and survive.
Wow.
And I think what zoos have learned over the years is that animals actually thrive a lot more in more natural habitats. So zoos have kind of made this transition into getting into much more natural habitats. They've hired people now that have degrees in animal biology, animal health, animal sciences, animal psychology, right? They have all these people that study all this stuff now. We know so much more about animals because zoos have kind of evolved that way. And likewise, zoos have been at the forefront of learning more and more about animals in the environment and how our earth and the environment works. That contribution itself has made this process of objecting zoos come to be. People care about animals, and they care about animals being in a captive environment. We care about animals being in a captive environment. We're both on the same team. We have keepers that care for these animals day in and day out. They want nothing more than to have these animals be as happy and as healthy as they possibly can. And we'll make arrangements to make that happen. And their input has to do with how the next exhibit gets built. It's going to be larger. It's going to be cooler. Polar bears now, if you're an AZA accredited zoo, polar bears now have polar bear exhibits have stipulations that need to be built. There needs to be air conditioning to a certain degree. There needs to be water that's at a certain degree. The water needs to have a salinity level to it that's at a certain amount. All of this stuff is now in place because of the AZA, because they've gone above what the USDA demands out of animal care, and zoos are stepping up and taking care of something like that. So that's kind of where the evolution has gone. In terms of communicating that over to the public, changing that perception at first and letting people see animals in a much more natural environment has kind of helped with that process, but also communicating why this animal lives in the environment that it does. A really good example of that is the alligator snapping turtle exhibit that we have here at the zoo. This alligator snapping turtle is huge, probably 2 to 3 feet in diameter on the shell. It's a big turtle. But alligator snapping turtles in their own environment typically stay in a pretty small space in a river. They crawl up under a rock and they stay there and wait for fish to swim by and eat the fish. So the exhibit that we build for them is built for that comfort, and it is likewise, it looks like a small exhibit for such a large animal, but this is how the animal thrives in its environment. Yeah, that's the alligator snapping turtle there.
Coach Woodard had an idea. He thought you should have a fundraiser where you do a giraffe gender reveal party. I can't even say it. Giraffe gender reveal party.
Giraffe gender reveal party.
There you
Can
go.
you tell right away though, like what it is, or no? Because I don't know.
Well, we don't know what it is. We don't. I mean, we've done ultrasounds with her, but we don't know the gender. Yeah, so it'll be a surprise when it comes out. Keepers will be able to very quickly know what it is, but we'll probably just announce the gender when we announce the birth. Yeah.
I know you're missing a big fundraising opportunity. Coach Woodard says so.
Yeah.
Other people like the idea.
We don't allow balloons at the zoo, so we can't do that
plan.
gender reveal. Yeah.
Good plan.
Yeah.
By the way, there are virtual programs. Our friend Debbie Saviano, who helps women all over the world become better entrepreneurs and business owners, was also a school principal for some amount of her career. And so she was asking about, education and virtual. I said, look at the Zoo Ventures. You can have virtual school programs. Talk about another sponsor opportunity. Teachers don't have a whole lot of money, and it's $35 to get 15 minutes of programming, which is a really affordable rate. Someone could come in and sponsor that. So they could put a couple of $100 down so that a whole bunch of teachers call up and say, what's the price? Well, someone paid for yours. Would you like to have a free event? Johnsonville Brats. It would be
Johnsonville Brats presents Red River Hogs. Let's learn about those.
That's right.
Don't worry, we don't make sausage out of these.
We make no sausage out of any zoo creatures. By the way, I'm a little let down. Two things you should know. One is that when I was trying to find the turtle, I was like, is a turtle a reptile or an amphibian? So I learned something today. Because, it's a reptile, it's a snake. And I'm like, a turtle's not a snake.
We've done our job.
I'm done and learned. And the other is I'm really let down that a hellbender doesn't look scarier. It looks like a croc, like the shoe, the croc. It looks like a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
So for such an awesome name for a salamander, hellbender.
Yeah. You would think that it would have red eyes and spit fire and do everything else, but no, it kind of looks like a big blob of gray jelly.
A baked potato. It's really a really visually unappealing creature.
Another name for it is the snot otter.
Okay, much better.
So you could use that if you wanted to.
Much better. Hey, we have to do a minute of sponsor stuff. We meant to do it at the beginning, but we had to ask about your toilets. You can understand.
So stay right there.
Okay.
That was weird. The program's like, screen sharing's canceled. I'm like, I know, I canceled it. Like, you touched the button. I know you.
Stop watching the giraffe and do the sponsor stuff you're supposed to do.
Stop it. We're sponsored by StreamYard. If you want to watch a bunch of giraffes give birth, you weirdo, you could totally do that. Go to cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Make your own giraffe watching show yourself.
Bring your own pregnant giraffe.
Bring your own pregnant giraffe. Authors, and I can imagine a Jim Bartoo book like no one others. I sell zoos.
I feel like it'd be a pop-up book.
A pop-up book would be great. Yeah. Well, if you need to market it, you're going to need your website. And the best publicists in the world, FSB Associates, made a site for you called PubSite, pub-site.com. Don't go figuring out how to build a website. Go click on this and make an author site in just a couple hours and be done with it all. $20 a month. So $499 if you want somebody else to do it for you. $2,000 if you want me to do it for you.
Shut up. Do not pay Chris to build your website. PubSite is so easy. You can do it yourself. Everything's fully customizable, and it comes pre-made with all the things you need as an author to promote yourself and your book. So pub-site.com, 14-day free trial. Go check it out. And write that book, Jim Bartoo.
Yeah, you guys talked a lot about the pop-up book. What I think is really a good opportunity for a zoo book is a scratch and sniff.
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there the minute you reiterated the pop-up.
What if they mix it up and it's like the giraffe area smells like the monkey cages, smells like the aviary?
No, we'll work that. We're working with experts over here. We'll make sure we get that done right. Yeah, because that's a lot of people are like, why would you have a zoo? You can just go online and see these animals, and that's my answer. I'm like, scratch.
Can't smell them. Can't smell them. I was thinking about my trip to the Franklin Zoo and specifically to the gorillas and the primates and all that sort of thing. And there's that feeling you get that you can't get. I've watched, I don't know how many hours of videos of great apes. Nothing happens. You just like watch a bunch of videos of great apes, and you every now and again you're like, well, it's like watching hockey. Are they going to fight? That's all you're wondering.
Right.
But when you're there, you commune. Like you're through a piece of thick glass, but you are breathing and they're breathing and they're looking at you and you're trying not to make eye contact because you forgot you're not supposed to. and all this stuff is happening. But it's amazing how you feel. You can't feel that way across the video. I love video, but you can't feel that same way. So you still have to get there, even if you have to wear your masks and stay at least 6 feet away from the tigers.
Right. Yeah. They don't, on video, they don't notice you. Right. Because it's not, and that's the way I think about it. I don't go to a zoo and think, hey, entertain me. I go to a zoo and I think, do you notice me? Do you even know I'm over here? And what do you think about me when I'm walking by? Right. Do you think you're a good snack, or you might have food, or, what are you thinking? And primates, particularly great apes, they're just fascinating to watch, because they're eyeing you up and down. They do that with everybody, right? And they either ignore you or they're interested in you for whatever reason. And if they're interested in you, they're so nonchalant about how they come up and kind of check you out a little bit more. They're like, oh, they look away. And then they might wander over a little closer, and then they look down. Then occasionally they'll be like, yeah, okay.
That's impressive, Jim.
Yeah.
That was impressive. Yeah. Do you, I got really lost for a minute. So there's a lot of videos on the internet that try to dissuade or the imagery of how vicious and terrible like a lion is or whatever. And there's a lot of people hugging lions now. There's a lot of people hugging bears. There's a lot of that scenario where it's full on dangerous. Like, the random human going up to the random creature is not going to have that experience. And yet they're all a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And they're all a lot less insane than we give them credit for. Do you talk about that at all? Even in your marketing, do you try to get in there to say, here's some things to think about? Yeah,
because we have calls from people all the time that say, hey, I'm shooting a music video. We're in Nashville, so we get a lot of, I'm shooting a music video calls. And inevitably one of them wants to get in with the tigers and, do this live shoot. And they don't realize that, watching a series about people who let people hug tigers does not mean that all tigers can go in and be hugged. Now, a lot of them were raised and hand raised and handled quite a bit and are trained to not do what nature wants them to do. But zoos are not really into doing that with animals that are dangerous. And we just kind of stay away from all of that stuff. And we tell people, look, it's not a good idea to have these at home. It's not a good idea to go in with these animals. If they're dangerous, we just don't let people in with them for that. And then we tell them straight up, we're like, these animals kill. They don't know the difference between playing and killing, because they're playing. A tiger's playing is going to snap your neck quickly. And that has shown itself again and again. There are people that entertain in Las Vegas, very famous people that had tigers for the long time that don't entertain anymore because the tiger was playing with him and snapped his neck. It just doesn't happen anymore because of that process.
I went to that show once, and I had a red sweater on. And if you go to Vegas, sometimes if you're like with a couple other girls, they'll put us in the front. So they put us in the front, and that tiger was looking at me like all I could think was it seemed like a T-bone steak. Sitting there in my bright red sweater.
You got that red hair and the red sweater. They're like, oh, this one's already prepared.
It's nice and juicy.
Well, a very similar story, different context. So I have a lifelong thing with sharks because I convinced my parents way too young to let me watch Jaws. I begged. They let me, and we watched it at a drive-in movie theater. So it was like insanity. So I have a lifelong thing with sharks. I'm at the Atlanta Aquarium, which is an incredible piece of art. And at the very top of the giant aquarium, they say, "Do you want to swim with them?" And I'm like, "Not really." Not a tiny bit. And she's like, "No, well, they don't bite you or anything. They're very well fed." By the time I get to the bottom, I asked this question. He said, "Well, don't they just sharks are sharks? Like, don't they just every now and again see a fish and go, that looks good, and just eat the fish?" And she said, "Well, snacks happen." And I said, "Well, you just said up there that nothing's going to happen like that. You are a lying liar." So
yeah, well, they know those. They know the sharks well enough, and sharks are really kind of misknown for that. I mean, they can be very dangerous animals, but they're also animals that are largely just looking for something to eat. right? And they will show you signs when they're hungry. And that's when you know not to be in the water with them. And if you're diving with them, you're largely going to be fine as long as you know where they are and know what their signs are swimming towards you. So if they're very aggressive, it's time to get out of the water.
Just feed them first.
And if they have a 2-for-1 coupon, forget all about it. Hey, we have to eat this really quick. Hang on.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
I was thinking of who our person of the day would be, and I got to give it to Debbie Saviano. Always here, always lovely. But I also love just the idea that, she was just really supportive right from the start of this episode and very jazzy. So, Debbie, you're our person of the day.
All right, Debbie. Hey, I think I know her.
Do you?
Didn't I sit behind you in social studies in 3rd grade, Debbie?
Debbie Saviano.
I love you, Debbie.
She's lovely.
I meant to say that in 3rd grade, so I feel better.
Sometimes these things happen. It takes a little while.
Gotta work it out. Yeah, snacks happen.
Snacks happen. Jim Bartoo, we have a thing we ask every single one of our guests, which is the backpack question. The question is basically what goes in your backpack, and the idea of this being that that we're working on sort of shifting sands. Everything's crazy. We don't know what's coming next, and planning out everything is really tricky. Over the next 5 years, what would go in your backpack, either physical or metaphorical, that would make somebody have a better life? What's a Jim Bartoo backpack ad for us, either physical or metaphorical?
I think one of the main things that I'd want to keep in my backpack is a sense of humor, and constantly looking for that good in someone, because it exists with almost everybody. To be able to find that, I think is kind of key to moving forward in life, and just kind of keeping your eyes open and looking for something else to learn. So metaphorically learning, that would be a good set of ears and an open mind.
I think you got to look for some ideas to upgrade your other bathrooms, Jim. That's what I think you need to be focusing on for 2020.
I know that our zoo president,
you're ready.
He wants to continue this as we develop the zoo out. So we will have other bathrooms with animals in them. I won't go into the somewhat gutter discussion we had about which animals would go into which bathrooms. You'll just have to wait.
Really weird.
No primates. Yeah, I know. This is a family program.
All I keep thinking over and over again is just, I want to be the guy that designs animal toilets, zoo animal toilet setup.
Because Jim is the guy.
Jim is the guy.
Like. Yeah, I'm going to start on that. That's going in my next scratch and sniff book.
You don't know, but he's sitting on an emu.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about my grandmother, because I've been to a few different zoos with her. One in York, Maine, which is better than the one in Amity, Maine, and also we went to the Franklin Zoo one time together, but not a zoo, but a similar animal-filled setting, very maligned for a lot of good reasons. Busch Gardens in Florida. We were at Busch Gardens, and I had this Captain Steubing kind of captain hat that I really loved when we were there. I was like 12, so you can forgive that, but I had this captain's hat. Yeah. So we were going over a rope bridge that looked down on a whole bunch of tigers. And like any young, not even a teenage boy, I stuck my head through the ropes to look down at the tigers. So where did my hat go? Straight down. Now I'm with my grandmother way up this side of the bridge. My parents are down here, and someone says, "Hey, look, there's like a hat or something in the water. It looks like those tigers are eating the hell out of that hat." And my parents looked in terror as my captain's hat and possibly me are in with the tigers. And I'll tell you what my grandmother said about it.